Hello and welcome back to the Blue Tinted Glasses YouTube channel today. Three Jamie Vardy's in, he's gonna be a goal! Yes! Hello and welcome back to the Blue Tinted Glasses YouTube channel. Today it is time for Good Morning Foxes. As always, after a Premier League game. Of course, I'm joined by my good friend Anil. How are you doing today, mate?
It is the morning after the night before. I guess we're not all feeling too great after losing the Cooper Classic. Some positive signs, but I think overall the better team clearly won.
Absolutely. Throughout the stream, please, people, if you can, make sure to get your comments in the chat. Let us know what you think or what you thought to the game yesterday. It'd be very much appreciated. It is, of course, me and Anil at the moment. We will be joined by Luke, the Leicester Expressions, I think people start to call him. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. I'll get some comments up on screen before we get into it. Of course, Forest Till I Die says, you boys got smoked. I wouldn't say we got smoked, but we definitely got, slightly heated. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Forest Fan TV, Double Agent Cooper. Reese is here. Very poor second half. They are class above us. I think there's a reason Cooper hasn't played that team, and it showed why yesterday. Well, we're going to get into that for sure. Can I join today, or have you having no 4v4, mate? But the call-in show will be tomorrow, R9, mate. So feel free to click in tomorrow. Look at this time, and he's here already. I was thinking, it was going to be closer to 11. Look at that. Luke, how are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, man, I'm all right. How are you guys?
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Thank you. Easy Gaming says this. Phase is what happened. Henry says hi. Manny says FFT has morning wood. Danny says morning Loxon and Nil. 2 man of the matches for me, Cooper and Sideshow Bob. Lovely stuff. Wolfie is here to troll. Jack from the Final Whistle, dreadful second half. Clibbo says first half pretty good, second half what the fuck. Henry says not Cooper's fault in my opinion. Defense was not doing anything. Individual errors cost us, and yeah, no problem. R9. Right, guys, I know you did the instant match reaction yesterday, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat have already watched that. They watched it live, most likely, but we're gonna have to go over a few things again today. So I want to start with Anil on this one, and then I want Luke to answer as well. So, Anil, what happened? Like, that is literally the title of the video. What happened? Because in the first, we were so excited. We were so excited for that 11 that Cooper put out. The first half was good, I would say. I would say very good, actually. I think it was one of, if not the best first halves so far this season. I don't think we really need to speak that much about the first half. What happened in the second half, Anil? What happened?
Well, individual errors. That's the story of the game. I mean, it's a question for everyone. I think this is one of the few times, I've been very critical of Steve Cooper all season long. This will probably be the most positive I am about the manager when I come to do the analysis, which might sound insane. But I think the thing is that, like, firstly, first goal, I know we're not talking about the first half, but I mean, that's 2 individual errors. Could have cleared our lines and didn't. So it already won down. Second half, you got to start strong. And again, individual error from a few players, at least to Chris Wood's first goal. Third goal is just terrible, isn't it? Absolutely awful. So the thing is it doesn't matter who your manager is, doesn't matter what system you're playing, doesn't matter what lineup you're playing. You can't really, compensate for those sort of errors, right? What do you do if your manager doing that? And then as soon as what I will say in terms of you asked me what happened. So I'll say I will say Nuno did tweak some things tactically, which I'll get to a bit later, right? And so basically they started robbing the ball from Ricardo and Winks. They recognized that we were using them in the build-up. And so that's why Chris Wood didn't really see the ball much in the first half. But the second half, they won the ball high up the field. They managed to feed him, and fair play to him. He's in absolutely clinical form. That's what we did. Well, Forest Fan TV, I would disagree with you there. I think the chances you created, yes, but that was after the game was effectively over at 3-1. right? So yeah, like I say, these tactical tweaks did it. And then I think what's really bad to see though is I think even after 2-1, you could see that felt the players got desperate. They're trying to force it a bit too much, certainly a 3-1. And to be honest with you, I think a 3-1, the team gave up, which was really appalling to see. And I think the players have to take a lot of accountability here. I think we saw, do you know what? I would actually say that in that game yesterday, we saw both the best and worst from last season. The best being like the smooth play and showing that we can play quite a sophisticated modern brand of football. But the worst in that sometimes I feel that just like if it's not going our way, we almost throw in a towel. And I think it's weird how sort of the game before that, we had this amazing fight back, showing real sort of like togetherness and fight. And yet at 3-1, it just felt like, oh, well, that's it, game over. And then it all just fell apart. So really, really poor. I think it almost stems from a psychological issue. That's my take on it. What do you think, Luke?
I was going to say, Luke, no offense, you do look like shit. You look like you got up at 4 a.m. To watch a game or whatever time it was. But yeah, talk to me, mate, about that second half, pal.
Yeah, I agree with Neil. I thought it was poor second half. I thought, they targeted basically a double pivot. Ricardo was already on a booking. Both our fullbacks got absolutely rinsed by Odoi and Alanga, which really didn't help matters. And I think that Boyanotto was well too selfish with the ball. I know he's been brilliant, but, trying to play it out, the penalty error is stupid, the first goal. And then many times he could have played for Darwin. There's a long list of errors. I would say broadly it was a team wide. Again, like Anil said, I've been fiercely harsh of Cooper, but he played the team we wanted to see, the formation we wanted to see. So I'm not going to jump on his back. What I will say, this is probably the second or third time that he's been outclassed by a manager. He got absolutely rinsed in that first half against Southampton that maybe we got too excited about. Martin was lucky to, not get a win that game. I know we won, but they got a booking, let's remind ourselves. In that first half, they rinsed us. So no fantastic comeback last night, unfortunately. But yeah, this is starting to become a painful occurrence. And I'm trying to be subjective now, and it's been 9 or 10 games. And if we lose to Ipswich, I think it's time that we pull the trigger on Cooper, and I don't think that's too hasty to say.
Well, look, Anil, like we said, the first half was a lot closer to last season. That in that first half, it was almost identical. But you have got Steve Cooper trying to implement an Enzo Maresca system. Obviously, the players are a big part of it. The players are the ones that learned it. Most of them, of course, some of them didn't. But what Luke said there, do you think Cooper will continue with this now, or do you think he will backtrack because we lost?
Well, I find it very interesting that he went for it anyway. And why did he go for it? And I've been saying, I think player power has won. And I think he's basically conceded to the team that they've probably collectively said to him, the senior players especially, that we want to go back to playing this system. This is what we all believe in it. We were good at doing it. We want to go back there. And he's gone with it and accepted it and done that way. So I don't know if Cooper then now steps in and goes back somewhere else. I think he'll, his conflicting messages, you already have lost the dressing room. I think he's kind of stuck in this way. And now, so yeah, I think he is going to try it one more time, I think, against Ipswich. Because I think otherwise, if he changes it completely, then I think that'll be big trouble, right? Because then I think the players will throw the towel in and sort of thing. Because I guess what he must be, I think it's a very interesting psychological sort of system, right? You see this happen in a lot of places. He's clearly lost it, but then if you offer someone like something to barter with, can they end up liking him? They might have some respect for him, saying, well, actually, look, if he's going to listen to us and play what we want and be receptive to our ideas, you can be a good manager that way. But then you could say, are you losing the authority in terms of where you're going to? It's interesting actually to get what Wolfie's saying. Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Wolfie, he did say to us when we did the 4v4, he says, I'm only scared if Steve Cooper tries to attack us, because then I know it's going to be an easy victory. Whereas if he just sort of plays his dour defensive ball, it could actually be a difficult game, which is interesting. And what I'll say is I think the reason why we looked good in the first half is that was on the muscle memory. But then, like I say, Nuno's made some tweaks, but is Cooper clever enough to make some tweaks to change it around? Though that said, I think those 3 defensive errors, like I say, you can't really consolidate for that.
Well, Luke, you know, you called 3 weeks ago Ricardo Pereira would be in for this Forest game. Him and Winks linked up very, very nicely in that first half. I'm going to just play a clip now from Harry Winks after the match, his interview after the match, and then I want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, we worked on a lot of that last year. You know, it was the way that we played out from the back, and me and Ricky having that combination play to bring people onto us, and it worked really well because we wanted to invite them on to press us to try and find the space in behind. And
so that did seem to be what was happening in the first half, Luke, as we saw many times last season, where him and Ricky P, they kind of bounced balls off each other, 1-2s, and then Winks kind of drove forward a little bit. What did you make of them two in the first half?
Yeah, brilliant. I thought like a little rusty for Ricardo Pereira, but I could definitely see that, you know, 2 or 3 games from now, if we keep playing that system, it's going to get better. What I will say is that Okoli didn't have his best game, and I would argue that if we are going to play that system, we should at the very least give Yannick Vestergaard at least another couple of games just to see how he would fit back into that system again where he's most comfortable. But the reality is I don't think Cooper can do it. And going on by what Anil's just said, he's already lost the dressing room. If the players have had to actually tell him what this is how we want to play, what we want to do, one, they don't believe in him whatsoever, and they've got faith in him. And B, he's like Anil said, he's lost the dressing room, and now he's not got the confidence. So he hasn't got their respect. And now we're going to have 2 conflicting, you know, styles of football, and it's just going to confuse players. So that's the biggest problem for me going forward. And like, let's just say, I mentioned it last night, that Fatawu pass that went to nobody, or the Winks pass to Fatawu that cost that second goal. Did Winks scuff his pass there, or was he just expecting Fatawu to be right there, you know, used to that system? And, you know, we're not been drilling it the exact same, you know, the same way every single, you know, day, week.
That was a scuffed pass there. I've got to defend him.
I think it is. I'm just scraping the
pass. Yeah. That was just like, it can happen. I mean, those things do happen. I mean, that said, even after the scuffed pass, though, I think Okoli can do better on wood there, although it's a really good finish. It's very interesting what Luke says there. I mean, I'll defend Cooper a little bit here, right? He's gone for the system. It hasn't worked. I think I said after last week, it'd be very interesting in the match meeting when they discuss it, what happens, because I've got a feeling that the players would say to Cooper, we want to play this way. Look how good we are, right? Now, I'll be interested again to see what would happen in a match meeting, especially on the players, because I think the players have got to come out and say, Gaffer, this was our fault. This was our mistake. We have to own it, right? We asked you to play a certain way. You listened to us. We played that way, but we let you down. And that's maybe the only time this season where I think that would be the case, because that is the reality, right? I will say that, like, after, let's say we are 3-1 down, did the manager do anything to really get us back into it? No. But at the same time, you just look at the body language of the players. I mean, Fass especially was just, it was appalling. So it's tricky to say that. And so, look, Ipswich is going to be a huge game. It's a team, it's funny enough, even though last season we only drew with them twice, we probably should have beaten them both games. So let's see if we beat them. We're still in a good position and everything like that, playing this way. But it's interesting that both of you now sort of saying, do you think Cooper's going to go or not? It's definitely on a tightrope. And also brought up saying it was toxic where he was at the match. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I actually disagree with you both on the Winks pass. I actually think that was him expecting Fatawu to make the run, personally. I see what you're saying. But there were other times as well where, look, let's be honest, Enzo drilled this mentality and this system into this team, the whole club. It was drilled into the whole club. Like Luke says, it was practice after practice after practice, drill after drill after drill, every single day of every single week, and it was drilled into them. And even at times you saw, I don't know if you saw that moment where it was Fatawu and Buonanotte, and like Fatawu just got into the box and he just played a pass through in kind of anticipation that Facundo would be where Ndidi would be last season. And he didn't make the run because Facundo isn't used to it like Ndidi was. I think he actually made an error playing Ndidi on the left. I think Ndidi should have been on that right-hand side with Fatawu like last season, and maybe Facundo in the Dewsbury Hall role, linking up with Mavididi. Tom is spitting straight facts today. Tom, mate, what's going on? I didn't think you were allowed to comment on this channel, mate. Cooper does not have a style of football. There's no identity on this team still after 9 games. A lot of people agreeing with Tom. Look, this is football, lads. We said, it was recent, 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago, that we need to lay off Tom. He's won back-to-back games and all of this. We need to lay off Cooper, sorry. And yeah, lay off Tom.
Tom's getting pelters there from blue tinted glasses.
We need to lay off Cooper. Yeah. We said we need to let Cooper back-to-back wins, and even like 2 wins, 1 loss in the last 3, it's not a bad return. But it's just worrying, isn't it? Because like you kind of alluded to, Anil, like we have 2 different styles of football now on the go, and who knows? The players are probably thinking, where are we going to go from here? And Cooper probably doesn't even know. And another comment that Wolfie's made is Cody managing the team again. I don't know if you saw, just as halftime was finishing, as the players came out, Cody was on the touchline, like looking like he was giving Cooper instruct. I mean, what do you make of that, Luke? Because it's not the first time. You saw in the cup game for the penalty shootout, Cooper gave Cody a note and just let Cody go in and tell everyone who was taking the penalties.
That's embarrassing. That means that like the players obviously like look up to him like a little bit, even though he's not been playing. Everyone said, "Oh, he should have been captain before last season, and he's a voice, and he's a leader, and we need that." But we barely saw it. Maybe he already has ambitions to be like a manager. We might see him go and do his badges after this season if he were to retire the next season. But again, it just shows no faith in the manager. Like they're all just like, "Oh, this orc doesn't know what he's doing." I don't think it bodes well for inspiring confidence in your lads, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Just to let you know, Luke, mate, your connection's a bit flakier. So I don't know if you want to like maybe try and just restart not restart the internet, but there you go.
Yeah.
Already. Keep getting your comments in, everybody. Manny says, Anil, that we had 1 or 2 individuals who were prohibiting structural strength, positional work, and discipline needed. Manny hasn't named them. Maybe you can name them.
Oh, the number 8s for sure. The number 8s, Buonanotte and Ndidi, were not standing in the right positions at the right time, so that caused issues. And yeah, well, Ndidi's maybe a bit less forgivable because he was used to the system last season. Buonanotte's never really played in that style before. There was like a really good example in the first half where Fatawu makes a pass almost without looking, and he's expecting Ndidi or Buonanotte to run into that area, but it was obviously not there.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom says, me and Locks are still ant in deck. One day we will be reunited. I just need to get out of rehab. Is Leicester Fan TV rehab? Is that what you're saying? Anil, sorry, Wolfie. I never said in that combined 11 that a Leicester player gets in the back line. You decided to put JJ in, not me. Funny enough, actually, I was just like, no JJ, and you were like, yeah, JJ. But they're still really not the best 2 centre backs in the Premier League for me. Definitely not. Another comment here. Manny says, was Wilf told to hang back in case of transition? And look, let's get on to the defensive errors, because this cost us the game for me. It cost us the game. Look, I know the second half, the system and the fluidity of it wasn't anywhere near as good as it should have been or as good as it was in the first half, but it was the defensive errors that cost us the game in the end. What did you make to it? Because for me, Wout Faze was shocking. And it's not just him. Obviously, Buonanotte made a mistake that led to a goal. The Harry Winks for Tau one, you could say, led to a goal. But the Faze one is it's lower than it's National League defending, isn't it? It's awful.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just a straight punt from the keeper, and it's awful. It's just like a really poor header. What's he trying to do? I think the problem is that is not the first time that he's had an issue with that. I've said this many times that just from a pure player coaching point of view, he's really bad at judging the flight of the ball. So he doesn't go for the header at either the right time or play it with the right amount. And unfortunately, I think a big issue is that if you're an opposition team, you might be able to engineer situations where you can take advantage of that, especially if he's dribbling up to the right centre back. So yes, he was really poor. And I think what was even worse is that his reaction afterwards was also like pretty petulant, I would say. And, you can see how angry Mads was as well afterwards. Like, bro, what are you doing here? You got to own it. And then, like I say, the petulance, and he just sort of, and this is what I'm saying. You said what went wrong in that second half. And I think that's like really poor. It's like, if you concede, of course it's bad, right? But you need to like get the morale of your team back, right? Don't let it affect you. Believe in what you can do. And then maybe you can turn it around. But I just felt that like his reaction after that goal, you could see the rest of the team were like, okay, it's done. The game's over now. Which I think is the worst thing to see. It's like, even if it is 3-1 and it finishes 3-1, even if they score another one, you still want to see you have a go. We've got to say that in the second half, did we even generate a shot on target? Not that I remember. So very poor.
We had one shot on target, didn't we? In the whole game, was it?
something like
game?
that, which we scored
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. Luke, you're back. Talk to me, mate. What else stands out to you from that game? Is there anything else that it's just really fucking bugging you?
Can you hear me first before I go off on one?
Yeah, got you, mate.
Is it lagging? You can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, man.
I think there was a shot from Boyanote, a shot from Mavididi, and Fatawu all over the bar. I think we started getting frustrated, particularly in that first or second half when they started parking the bus. They did defend well for us, so they did fair play to them. But I think that we got a bit desperate. And look, like I said, I would like to see Yannick Vestergaard in that position in centre back, but we have to stick to the same style regardless of the result. If we lose to Ipswich, I'm going to be coming back on here and being very critical on Cooper again. I haven't been, like I said, I thought, he gave us everything we wanted to see, but I think the writing's on the wall. He's probably already halfway through losing the dressing room.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one about losing the dressing room. I mean, if the rumors are to be believed in, it happened weeks ago, not just in the last week or so. But where. I mean, it feels almost like Cooper is, when you hear these rumors of the government, not to get political, everybody, but when you hear about the prime minister or the president just being the front man for everyone else controlling, it almost feels like that with Cooper, from the rumors, from what we're seeing on the pitch, from the clear lack of, I don't know, there just seems to be no set plan. It's just every week to week, it changes. Do you agree with that assessment, or do you think again that's a little bit too harsh?
No, it's very interesting. So on my other screen here, I've actually got the comments that was rumored. Now it's really funny because I remember when we were talking about this, and I'll be totally honest with you, when it first came out, I thought, nah, it sounds too good to be true. It sounds too much like make believe, right? Then against Southampton, it was JJ going to left back. I was like, oh, hang on a minute. That's very interesting, because the comment that came out here, so allegedly this was James Justin that they spoke to, said he considers himself to be a left back, right? So the fact that he went to that position was interesting. But some of the other things here that I've read here are very interesting. And basically what he's saying is JJ was saying, I have no idea how I'm playing ahead of him. He's still one of the best players at the club in terms of Ricardo. He was saying that all of the players think that they know more about football than the manager, and he doesn't really understand what they're doing. It's very interesting to see these comments. And I think, so you asked me earlier, you said, why is Conor Cody managing the team? I mean, I think it's a lot more than smoke now. I think there's a massive bonfire in the Seagrave, and that is what's happening. And they clearly don't have an issue, and they're trying to make the best out of it. Because what I will say, though, which is interesting, is that rather than the players giving up, it makes it feel that they do care and they want to stay up and everything like that. But they're almost I think someone else put it in the comments earlier, we're winning in spite of Cooper, not because of him. That probably is the reality. Now, it's a bit of a weird situation, as you say. What if you have a lame duck prime minister or president or something like that? What can you do? But you can still have it people who watch Game of Thrones, right? It's the hand of the king is the one that's actually ruling the kingdom, right? The king is just the person who sits on the throne doing nothing. So yeah, what I'm saying is Conor Cody the hand of the king? Maybe he is. Maybe he's running training.
And it's funny because he barely played under Enzo as well. You know, he barely played.
Yeah. But just to answer you, I think that is, maybe it's not necessarily Cody, but 100% there's a few people doing it. Now, what's interesting, I will say that first half especially, it shows you that the players are not clueless, that they have sort of figured out some way, but it's really difficult, especially if you're a player, to fully understand the complex system to that. And really how can I put this? You might copy someone's homework and get 80% of it, but do you understand that last 10%, which can make all the difference? Because the way that the system works is that when you've got just one or two things that aren't working correctly, the entire thing will fall apart. And that's actually what we're a bit guilty of. But I will say, though, there were definitely periods especially the first half, where it was working absolute textbook. So if Conor Cody is the manager, maybe he's got a career. I don't know.
Well, Luke, we've already mentioned Vestergaard a little bit on this stream, but Tom says if you play out from the back, you need a ball-playing defender like Vestergaard, but he's fallen out with Cooper. Shame that. I mean, the rumor is that he's injured. We don't believe it. I don't think you believe it. I know Nil doesn't believe it. But what do you think to that comment? Because I think Okoli, he did okay. He's done okay. this season with playing out from the back, in my opinion. He's not been bad. But surely, I mean, Vestergaard did it for 46 games. Well, I think he might have been suspended for one, but, let's just say over 40 games last season, he did it in that Enzo system. Do you think it is time for the return of the vest? Something like that?
Consider we gave him 3 years, which is probably a deal that was set in place when Enzo was still here. Then yeah, I think so. If we are going to play the system, which I want to keep doing, then yes. I wanted Yannick to play, but his last game he played, I thought he was poor and he turned the ball over. But again, different system. I think that we're going to have to at least try him out in that position. I just think that Okoli has been like poor and too questionable in patches that last game, and I think that competition's good and we need it. So let's at least try it. The problem is if he has fallen out with Cooper, that would make a lot of sense because if players are already doubting Cooper and saying, listen, this is the style of football we want to play, that Harry Winks, he's been dropped a little bit. And also we've had Ricardo frozen out until yesterday. I looked like a genius when he came in, but maybe I'm not because Victor Christensen's come out that he's got a groin complaint. So we don't know. We might not see Ricardo even play again. If Christensen comes good, he could be back to being frozen out, which would be a shame. And playing that system of him dropping into that double pivot position, inverted fullback, all hinges on Ricardo Pereira. No one else can do that we're yet to see anyway. So if Ricardo doesn't play, it's safe to say that we're going to go back to playing a back four. And if we were to go back to playing a back four, I'd rather keep Okoli in what it's worth. I know that sounds crazy. Back three, yes, Vestergaard. Back four, Okoli, just because of the pace.
Yeah, I mean, am I being silly here? JJ did play left centre back, didn't he? Like he played left back, moving into left centre back.
No, but he's saying that Enzo didn't like to play him there.
He did, yeah.
Mainly because Callum Doyle got injured. Because what he's saying, which is true, is that like a big feature of our play is that a left centre back will go for the switch pass to the right winger. So yesterday, Fast did it a few times to Mabadidi, who, as Wolfie is saying, was pretty invisible in that match, shall we say. But because you haven't got someone with a left foot, I don't think Justin tried it so Fatawi once. But what I will say with a few things that have come out from comments is whilst they're not necessarily wrong, I don't think that these were factors. So like a lot of people are saying, okay, we missed Vestergaard's distribution into the double pivot. But I don't really think that's true, to be honest with you. I'm not saying he's as good at Vestergaard at doing it, but that's not the reason why we lost the game. We lost the game because we made 3 individual errors and we did generate a goal through going to the double pivot. Maybe when we were down 3-1, we could have done it a bit more. But I'm just saying, I don't think that's the exclusive reason we lost, Same with some of the other things. I think that, like I say, we lost because we made 3 absolute howlers and conceded 3 goals. And then what are you going to do? No, that's fair enough with with the whole kind of homework analogy there. We've got to get there. But you can still go on the training ground and work it out. I mean, here's a different thing, though. What would have happened if we don't make those 3 individual errors? What happens with the game? I think, to be fair, Wolfie said it as well, that I think Forest made better opportunities to score than the goals that they even scored from. Like when Hudson-Odoi hit the post, Ryan Yates should have scored another one. They did make some really good things, although that was when the game was getting a bit stretched. So I don't know, maybe if we don't make the individual errors, we're still probably going to lose the game. But I mean, it'd be very different if we didn't make them, right? So it's always going to be putting you in. I'll be honest, I think that game yesterday reminded me of a couple games from last season. It reminded me of the Bristol game and it reminded me of the Plymouth game, where for whatever reason, just the team were crap and we ended up losing the game. And a lot of those games were also down to individual errors. So, like I say, it doesn't matter. And who was in charge then? It was Enzo Maresca. So, sometimes even having a great manager isn't going to get you the result that you want, right?
The last thing I want to touch on about the whole comparing it to Enzo's system, the last question I want to ask you both, I'll start with you, Luke. If you were Enzo, it's very hypothetical. If you were Enzo Maresca watching that game, and who knows, he might have, I think he probably did. What would be the thing that stood out to you the most? Putting yourself in Enzo Maresca's system, watching this copied homework that ended up with an F rather than an A. What stands out, Luke?
I think in the high eights, Ndidi, we talked about this when we were watching the game, but basically Ndidi, if we were having 2 high eights, he was a bit behind, possibly ready to catch us out on to nullify them hitting us on transition. So you had Buenatel further on the pitch than Ndidi. But I think, like we've discussed, I think they should have been swapped over. I actually think that eventually that Ndidi possibly would be even dropped, and it would be Boyanote and Bilal playing as the high eights in an Enzo system. I think that Bilal is an Enzo signing if he was still here, and I think that's one that he would work with and be able to develop a lot better than Cooper can. Remember, Cooper's been brought here to nurture and develop youth, and we're kind of really yet to see that. And I could rant to you about ages, and we already talked about it, But look, I think if it was Enzo, he would think that this is like a team you wish version of my style of football. And I think that he would have made a lot of changes by about the 60, 70-minute mark. But look, let's give it another game. I know we're all negative right now, but if we lose to Ipswich, then yes, I will come on here screaming and ranting and raving about Cooper out, and we need to make a change. And if you pull that comment up, Ant put a really good comment up. We should finish with that. Ant put a comment up earlier saying the board has to answer for this, not Cooper, because they appointed him in the first place. They came in and said that we want to bring in someone that plays possession-style football and build upon the foundations that Enzo basically laid. And we went from that to being a confused side, and now we're letting our players dictate, how we play the game. So what the fuck was the point of bringing him in for? That was retarded. So, yeah, the board does have a lot to answer for.
Yeah, yeah. Anil, you can answer both questions if you want about what Enzo would have thought and also what Ant said about it being on Rudkin.
I think ultimately, yes, but you don't know who is available and who else they were considering. I mean, we've always said that I think all three of us said that we'd actually go for Carlos Corberán out of the three managers that seemed to make the final case. But I mean, who knows? He might have gone for his own different system as well. It's unique in terms of how we're doing it. What can you really say? Yeah, how about what would Enzo do? I think he'd be highly critical of the players, and I think you would see one or two people being shifted for the next game. But I think that's a bit of a challenge for us because we've made a lot of changes and tinkering all throughout the season. I mean, look, the next game is a cup game, so there's probably going to be heavily rotation for that anyway. But here's a question for you guys. What team do you start with against Ipswich? Because I think despite the fairly shambolic performance that we put in, I'm not sure you're going to change that lineup, really. If you're going to drop someone, I would say the player you'd have to drop is Fast based on the performance, right? Because he's absolute clanger that he's put in there. But the structure kind of worked. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could say maybe like Manny's put it a few times, was indeed the asked to stay back on transition. That's an interesting thing because I don't know if the players are managing, would they tell him to do that? And it's sort of a weakness when you're not in the right place because it means that the press isn't as good. Yeah, good thing. Who would come in instead of Fast? Cody? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could put Vestergaard back in. You could put Okoli on one side and Justin on the other. And you can choose which side you want them, left or right. Maybe something to think about it.
That's a good question. Yeah. Could you have Okoli on the left, Yannick in the middle, and then JJ on the right?
Why not?
Ricardo's the double pivot. Yeah, why not?
You've still not got a left-footed player for the Diags, but Okoli has at the start of the season, because that's an interesting change that we've made, is that he's moved over to be like the middle of the three, and now the two. Because the thing is, I think that JJ and Fast, they especially like this system, because what ends up happening is we have a lot of possession, and then those two starts to get involved in the attack. So of course they're going to like it. That's what they really like about Enzo's system. There was like a quote of like, wow, Fast saying, oh, we love Maresca's style. It's the first time I've ever played football where we play it completely in their half. You could see that they knew that they were onto something. And I don't know if you've seen this, but Maresca himself, they asked him why he became a manager. And he said, well, one day when he was at Seville, they played Barcelona when Pep was in charge. And he came off the pitch and he was like, what the hell just happened? That wasn't a football match. Like normally when you play a football match, these things are supposed to happen and none of it happened. And he was just like obsessed with it and he was trying to study what Pep had done. And then he ended up working with it. But look, I would say though, that maybe you do just keep the same lineup, because the thing is, and I think this has been the problem all season, is you do need to get a bit of consistency and keep the team. Like every time Leicester have done well, historically, it's always the same. You can name that 15-16 team in your sleep. Even the 19-20 team that, gets their FA Cup final, etc., etc. After a while, you know what that team's going to be. Last season, when we were at our best, you know what that team's going to be. So I think there's something to be said for keeping consistency for a bit, see where we pan out, and then start changing it. I think we've been tinkering too much all season.
Yeah, I agree. There is a poll in the chat, everybody, about whether we should go for Enzo Ball again versus Ipswich. So get your votes in there on the poll. Does it not say at all that Cooper had to go back to Enzo Ball to try and get a style of play? I mean, Luke, I'm in massive agreement with Anil, because I'm worried that Cooper will now abandon what we saw yesterday. But it's the right way to go, isn't it? Because it's not going to help anyone switching it up every single game. Or we might... we lost yesterday. So then against Ipswich, we'll go back to maybe something that Cooper's put together. And then if we lose that one, okay, fine. The next game, we'll try and do Enzo ball. I mean, we need to just focus on one style of play and implement it, don't we?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, I'm worried about as well. Like the first 10, 15 minutes before we conceded that first goal was sexy. Like the patterns of play were there for all to see. Like we were all really enjoying it, watching it. What worries me as well is if we're changing the style, and that means we're changing, formation, and that means that like certain players don't fit certain things. So you'll see, like if we were to chop and change a lot, you would see, skip in, skip out. I would go back to attacking a 3 instead of 5, and then the XG would still be painfully low. So I don't want to see that. And then what's going to happen with like the likes of Fatal is he going to start dropping him and starting Ayu instead? There's a lot of asterisks that go in, but yeah, I really am worried as well. But I think he will stick with it for one more game against Ipswich.
The chat agree. The poll has ended. It's 55% say yes. There are, of course, some.
Oh, that's a lot closer though. That says that even amongst the fan base, it's pretty divided, I would say.
Well, there are lots of Forest fans in the chat, so that might skew the results a little bit. But I have ended it. It's 55% say yes. I want to come to this comment because I was doing the watch along. I don't actually listen to I don't have audio on. Okay, so Ant about literally half an hour ago said where I stand. That was Puel level of toxic at full time. I think you guys did have audio potentially. Let me know if you didn't. But what was it like at full time? Because it's weird. At half time, I'm sure the fans would have been gassed. I'm sure they would have been happy with what they saw. But what was it like at full time? Because I didn't hear it.
No, it wasn't good. But I mean, I think to be fair, like it wasn't good from about after it went 3-1. You could see that, all you heard was the Forest fans. Fair play to them. They made all the noise. Everyone went quiet. But that's interesting. I didn't really hear that I mean, to be honest, we jumped straight into the match. So we heard it a little bit. But I know what he's saying in terms of the toxicity, but it didn't feel as bad to me listening to it. Because I do remember that game, Puel's last game. And yeah, you could hear it even on the TV. You just knew it was a funeral that you were seeing there. It didn't feel quite that bad. But if he is saying that, I'm not going to doubt Ant, then that could be the case. Because let's be honest with you, if you're going to take a Tonking, to a team that's near us geographically, it's not going to bode well, is it? So it could be an issue there.
Luke, Forest fans were singing Steve Cooper's name throughout the game, and then I also heard them singing "Going Down," playing the Steve Cooper way or something along those lines. I mean, yeah, what do you think to all that, mate?
I can't say anything because I went into the chat, told him to take the knee, and we just took it. So I've got no leg to stand on. And yeah, we probably are going to go down playing the Cooper way if we don't make a decision soon. To be honest with you, we're devoid of an identity now. We don't know what we are. I wanted him to be sacked before the international break because we could have had time to integrate a new manager with a better philosophy in with the lads. So yeah, people say that, that's too harsh and maybe too early, but I just think the writing's on the wall. I'm sick of hearing people say, even some Forest fans will say, oh, he'll keep you up, or he'll keep you up. And then we become the next fucking Everton. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, the mission becomes season upon season. Oh, look, we've just got to stay up. We just got to stay up. We're not building it with an identity towards something in the future to build upon. There's no progression there. That's the biggest thing that concerns me with Cooper, isolating good players that should be integrated into the team. Then players are going to want to leave, and then it's going to be more difficult to get people to want to come here. What people forget, we got Winks, Cody, like big level players for the championship to come because they believed in Enzo Ball. And I don't think we could inspire the same kind of people to join with Cooper in charge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of people giving their verdicts on when and why or when he should go. I've seen, obviously, I know you just said it as well, Luke, but Anil, again, the more level-headed out of the three of us, what would you do? Because you were, after the Southampton game, I think you seemed quite confident that Cooper would keep us up, even if it was shit, like shit football. Is that still the case? You still think he'll keep us up?
If we played this style, I think he'll keep... Yeah, to be honest with you, I would still be pretty optimistic. I got to say, it's funny that, see that all the fans are understandably upset. But I said this to you at the start of the match yesterday. I said to you, if we play this system, I don't even care if we lose. So I stand by that because this is the way to go. So the thing is that if you have worked out a style of play, it's going to take time for it to get right. And this is the first match that we started with the double pivot of Ricardo and Winks in the entire season. So you got to stick with it, and you got to believe in your principles, and you've got to play that way going forward. So I think if we can do that, what the mistake is we should have been doing this from game one. That's the frustration. I think at least we managed to get 9 points from the 8 games before we realized that we needed to go back to that system. Could we have got more points if we'd have stuck with it throughout? Because the thing is as well is that then with all those games in pre-season, think about how much better all of our players would be and understanding where you need to be, where you need to stand, how you need to play. So I think still if we stick with it, we're still at the moment as it stands, we've got 1 point for every game. So 9 games played, 9 points. If you keep that up over 38 games, you'll probably stay up. Almost certainly you will. That's good. And you'll have a good style of play. So I don't think it's as crisis as people think it is. I actually think a much bigger problem is if we stick to this system and we did start getting tonked 3, 4, 5 games. That could have happened on the end zone. Then you'd be like, okay, wow, even the system that we played last season isn't going to work. Then it would be what many people predicted at the start of the season. Is it going to be like Burnley, where you've got a cool style, but it doesn't work with the players that you've got once you step up a division? Which still could be the case. But I think the squad is still good enough. And I still think we showed in that first 45 minutes that there's something to work with there. It's more than good enough to get points, certainly up the bottom 6 to 8 teams, which is what we need to do to stay up.
Yeah, there's 120 people across both streams. If you can hit the like button, whoever's channel that you're watching on, that would be very much appreciated. For the last 5-10 minutes of the stream, we are joined by another guest. And that man is Mr. Manny. There he is. Manny, mate, you've been a part of the chat for the last 40 minutes. You've had a lot to say. Talk to me about that second half or whatever you want.
Yeah.
Really. Talk to me about whatever you want.
Well, I've been listening to you boys, and it's kicking the nuts this morning. But it's the very first time we have played this way for a while. So don't panic because it didn't work instantly. It's a data sample of one game. We've tried the other way for 7 or 8 games, and we didn't like what we were seeing ultimately. There's a few new players in the system as well. Remember, it takes time to bed them in. Buonanotte, not used to the system, didn't have his best game. Just give it a bit of time. I'm for one saying this is the right way forward. Whether he's the right person to play this way is a question. In terms of how we should play, certainly with Ipswich coming up, it should be a good game for that kind of way of playing. Interesting to what we do against Man United twice away. What do you think about that?
Well, what do you think he'll do in the cup? That's an interesting one because I don't think he will play Ricardo in the cup now. I think he will play this against Ipswich. So it'll probably be some mishmash team. Or I wonder, will he try and play Hamza in the double pivot? That was like last season when Ricardo was injured. Who did we use in the inverted role? It was Hamza Chowdhury. So if you're going to play someone who understands how to play that position, you can see Luke is absolutely thrilled with that suggestion. But just saying,
I think it's just we need to calm down. Our wingers didn't have the best of games one-on-one. Their fullbacks played really well. Their 2 wingers really posed a threat outside of the system, which is weakness. You're going to find space outside the spread out centre backs. As in terms of options, look, Ricky looked a bit rusty. Don't give him a kick in the teeth by putting him back on the bench. Stick with it. The players clearly want to play that way. It was telling the interview that you posted with Winks. I think that tells you something that even the 3-1, the players at least feel more comfortable. Now, if we turn around after 5-6 games and it's clearly not going well, then Cooper has turned around and said, see, we tried it my way, we tried it your way. My way was more effective. We're going to go back. And I think the fans, us included, would concede, okay, we've tried it for a decent period of time, but let's just not abandon straight away. Remember, it's not going to be like this every single game. It's about building something long-term, not just about the next 3, 4, 5 games or the season. And to be honest, I think some of the teams are that bad at the moment that whichever way we play, we'll probably scrape enough points to stay up.
Yeah, that's fair. I want to end on a slightly positive. Man of the matches, if you had to give them out to Leicester players, who stood out for you, Luke?
Fuck.
There you go. There's your man of the match.
Can we just do it off the first half? Yeah. Can we do it the first half? If it's the first half, I would say Harry Winks. Harry Winks first half for me.
Yeah, controlling it, dictating it. Manny, what are you saying for man of the match?
I agree with Luke. I thought Winks had a good game yesterday. He was a bit better defensively. He showed more energy since he got dropped for that one game. He seems to be more purpose. I like the fact that he got forward into the left channel. He had a nice little triangle going for our goal. I think he looked a bit more comfortable. And again, it's tough when we have 3 individual errors that lead to goals and kick the stuffing out of you. But in terms of players who I thought within the system did their role extremely well, Harry Winks.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I don't know if you saw Gary Neville saying that Winks should get an England call up. He said on the punditry after the game.
Gary Neville. Oh,
it seemed that, yeah, to be fair, like it did seem, I don't know, it seemed a little bit of lazy punditry, to be honest, when he was speaking about it. But yeah.
You say that, but I don't think that's as crazy as you say it is. Right? I know that Man United have been linked with him as a cheap option as well. Because the thing is, especially the way that England want to play, is you're looking at a system player, not on their individual strengths or weaknesses, right? Because England struggled with this during the Euros, right? They don't have a good player who can receive the ball under pressure and transition a ball from defense to attack. So England, you've got Harry Kane, Saka, Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer. You've got some of the best attacking talent in the world, but you can't get the frigging ball to them. So actually having a player who's so selfless, unselfish, and you can help assist that, playing next to Declan Rice, for example, I don't think is the worst shout in the world. I'd probably suggest there are better players like Kobe Mainu, Adam Wharton, whatever like that. But given the experience, I don't think that's actually the craziest thing ever. Just quickly, I want to say, man of the match for me was easy as Mads Hermansen. Even if you're only looking at the first half, yet again, he kept the score down. That's a fact. He's the elite player that we've got, and I still think that come the end of the season, when they do the Premier League 11, he's going to be in it.
Well, there we go. Manny, I saw you shaking your head a little bit at the calls for Winks for England. Why?
It's not a serious question, is it? I mean, come on, boys. If you're playing against France or Spain, how much use is Harry Winks going to be? I can get it if you're playing your Slovakias and your lower ranked teams. You're not really worried about them attacking you, although we should be given recent history. As soon as we play against a tasty team that puts extreme pressure on him, and that's the reason why we struggle in the second half, is Winks is good when he's not under extreme pressure. And so he's got time to play, to control the game, to dictate the game. As soon as you aggressively attack him, under pressure, it's a very different situation. And I think we saw a lot of that in the second half. And there are ways we've got to try and find extra protection for him, which is why Winks isn't suited as a 2. You need that extra help in midfield to get to him, to kind of shield him from other people absolutely getting on him within a second or two. For England, come on, boys, we're talking about winning a trophy here. You can't win a trophy with Harry Winks in your central midfield, I'm sorry to say.
Well, Luke's, because just to offer some context here, Luke and Manny had a bit of beef. Well, not really beef, but
no, I love you, Manny.
Ago because I think Manny came into one of the chats and said Winks to be dropped, and Luke called him an idiot or something. This is before they knew each other. Luke, what have you got to say back to Manny?
Okay, so first of all, Manny was right at the time to call out Winks to be dropped because of the system. Am I still here? Just cut out for a second.
Yeah, you go, mate.
Okay. I disagree with Winks not being able to play under pressure. I think absolutely last season, I thought he did that tremendously well. Do you think that, though, that the question is because he had Ricardo Pereira alongside him to be able to play out of the back, in close proximity and playing up the middle, then back, then out wide? We're not going to go through the patterns of play. Whereas when he played alongside the Skip at the start of the season, Skip was great, that double pivot, but he was a much more advanced in that role. So he wasn't there to be able to cover him. I think Winks does need to be protected. I've seen Winks do some boss level fucking shit last season with there was one time where JJ was under the pump hard and Winks went in like an absolute soldier, dug him out of the shit and then dissed the ball out. So I think Winks still needs to be there and playing that style of football. The question I actually have to you, Manny, is this. If it's not a fair shout for him to be playing for England, in my opinion, if Enzo had to pick one player to raid from us other than Mads Hermansen, I thought it would have been Harry Winks, not Keenan Dewsbury Hall. I thought he would have worked excellent in the Enzo system at Chelsea.
You can find other players out there who are technically equal but physically superior. So better athletes who can do it. And we keep talking about Winks' highlights in the Championship, and he was excellent last season. Don't get me wrong, he was absolutely superb. But there's a difference between when most of the teams you're playing against are setting up with a low block. They're not trying to get out of their own half. They're not trying to attack you as such. They're not really putting pressure on Winks too much. And we didn't really see him under extreme pressure last season in many games. And this season it's very different. The speed of the Premier League is so much higher, and every team is trying to win the ball high. So Winks is going to be targeted over and over and over again, which is why if he's left with too much space to cover and he's left isolated too much, he will get caught. And we've seen that before at times. And I think in this league, it's just very, very dangerous to leave him out there. However, if you play the way we did yesterday, it's different. He made a point of saying Ricardo's really close to him, really, really close to him. And they can have their little link moves, and they don't need to be necessarily physically so strong because you can play through it. Whereas you're an individual, you've got to be much stronger. So you need someone like Ndidi in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. There's beefing going on here between Wolfie and Luke in the chat. Wolfie said, by the way, ask Luke why he felt he could troll me when you equalised. Tell Luke to apologise and have some shame and kiss my ring. Interesting there from Wolfie. Luke said, Wolfie, fair play, mate. Look, it's all banter, but until you qualify for Europe or win the Premier League, stay on your bent knee and hold
my back, peasant.
Yeah, all right. Look, listen. To be fair, Forest won the war, but I mean, Wolfie did say Grandad Vardy wouldn't score against the best two centre backs in the Premier League, Milenkovic and Murillo, but he did. But you did win the game in the end, so that's all that matters, I suppose. We're going to end it there. Thanks to everyone for getting their comments in and hitting the like button. If you haven't already, make sure you do it now. Tomorrow night on Blue Ticket Glasses and for Fox 8 TV, we have Monday night, we have the call-in show. So that will be back. So it gives all of the Leicester fans a chance to jump in and have their say on the game. But more importantly, this is the big one. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we have Graham, Happy Clapper Graham, and Manny going head-to-head on a little debate. So that's 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's going to be a feisty one, so I'm looking forward to that. Cheers to the lads. Cheers to Luke. Cheers to Manny.
Well, Wolfie's asking if he can call in. I would normally say no, but maybe as it's you, we will allow you. Well, I'll leave it to Locks to see if you want to take that on or not. You'll have to have the stop button ready in seconds.
I'll give Wolfie like a 3-minute slot. There you go, Wolfie. Hopefully that's good for you, mate. Hopefully that's good. Yeah, R9 as well. You can join in. But again, cheers Anil, cheers Luke, cheers Manny. Thanks for jumping on. And yeah, I'll see you on the channel tomorrow. Bye bye.